I understand his perspective on that. So those were my likes and dislikes. I really liked the personal component. I really liked the emotional and spiritual journey that Chad went on. And you kind of learn a lot about Chad, and you can understand how this exists. And it almost brings your awareness a little more to mental illness as well, which I thought was a great touch.
Well, the things I liked and disliked about it, it's going to be hard to separate because the things I like are also the things I don't like. So,
right, it is a little hard to separate.
So the things that I liked about it, of the 3 films that I watched, I think this is actually Chad's. I think this one flows the best of the 3. I think that in some ways and again because my background's video, I think the editing is the best in this one. So I think the storytelling is the best of the 3 in this one. I think the editing is the best. I think the flow is the best. And it's an easy to understand story. Hey, I grew up in a haunted house. I'm gonna go back and make a film about it. You have to appreciate that Chad's basically like, hey, I'm gonna put a film out there that's basically like stars my family, and like. There were some scenes, they're not pretty. I mean, like, it doesn't show his family in the best light. It makes his brother look pretty weird. It makes his mom look really weird.
His uncle's a murderer.
Yes. That's right. I forgot. His uncle's a murderer in prison.
Tripping on LSD and then kills his mother or
and
his sister.
Something. Yeah, I was actually really confused. I'm glad you brought that up because I was kind of that got wrapped up so fast at the end. I was kind of confused what he did. Yeah. So, he was willing to kind of to do that and put himself out there. He got emotional and things like that. And the things I don't like, to be specific, and again, a lot of this carries over across all 3, and it's more of a trend. All of his films, I think, are too long. So as much as I say this was the best editing, when I watch, as a filmmaker myself, when I watch Chad's film, I have to give him a lot of credit in one hand, and then I have a lot of criticism in the other hand. And I remember when I was at St. Vincent College, I always bring this up. I had a monk. We taught this class about criticism, and he said you have to do a criticism sandwich. Huh?
Is that Dr. Snyder?
No, it wasn't Dr. No, Father. I don't want to say his name, but it was a monk.
Not Dr. Snyder. Got it.
No, but he taught us about the criticism sandwich. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. Basically, the bun, you start with the bun of saying nice things, then the meat in the middle is you offer your criticism, but then you wrap it up nicely again with another layer of something nice again, and that's how you criticize something. So, I kind of said the nice things. Chad has a style, which is great for him to have a style, and it's very clear the music he chooses, how he edits. I don't like sometimes, like, basically, this is Chad producing Chad documentaries. So my criticism is to say, like, I wish, like, especially when it gets to the point where with something like Sir No Face, which is potentially huge. Sir No Face could be out there even more than it is if Chad was producing documentaries that a bigger producer would be willing to put his name on. But because of how Chad edits and stars himself and features himself, like, he'll have little scenes where it'll just for no reason just cut to a cigarette burning, or it'll just cut to a scene of him sitting there smoking a cigarette because almost like it makes Chad look cool. It's not moving the story along, and the thing is, all these documentaries like 2 hours long. Like, if you read online, some of the biggest criticisms, like, this same story could have been told in an hour. It just drags on sometimes.
Because instead of showing Chad with a cigarette, I'd prefer to see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with Mom.
Yes.
So maybe I was wrong in saying it should be longer. Maybe it should be more.
There's things that don't need to be there, and if it's going to be 2 hours long, we could probably be replacing it with a lot of things. Just to jump ahead, I'll give you an example, then I want to come right back to this documentary. But like in Sir No Face, there was probably like at one point like an 8-minute montage of just footage from Sydney, Australia.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Basically, and all that's doing is to show like how good they are with their camera work. That's all that serves.
That also, there was that, and they also showed the first 10 minutes was basically marketing for Blood Red Sky, which was also unique. But I disagree actually on what you're saying, and that I think when we get to Sir No Face, we can talk about it a little more. But I don't think that all of his films are just about him.
Right. Okay.
But we'll get to that.
I'm not saying they're just about him. But as a person that edits video, I see him inserting himself ways. Even I watched Blood Red Sky for no reason. There's a shot of like they get in a car and it's just like him taking his baseball cap and putting his hat on and like curving the front rim of it because it looks cool. It does not need to be there.
No, you're
it
correct.
doesn't need to be there.
I can't argue with that.
The only purpose of that scene is because it looks cool and it's Chad. And
I got to say, from a non-filmmaker standpoint, that never crossed my mind. But now,
I pick up. There's a lot of that.
No,
there's a lot of it.
You're saying it, I can think of a whole bunch of examples.
If we actually sat down and watched these together in like, or I'm like through like an now the other thing, Chad, he's a good editor. He's actually a very good editor. But it's one of those things where I look at it. So this is my final criticism, so we can move along on his actual production stuff. Remember when George Lucas makes Star Wars, and crazy, amazing director, thing, but all of a sudden he got these tools, all this extra ability when they made Episode 1. And what was the biggest slam on it? Like how overdone it was, right?
It was
almost cheesy because it's like suddenly George Lucas gets all this ability to do all these new things, and he just freaking goes crazy with it. So when I watch Chad edit, I see Chad doing a lot of things that's just to show that he can edit.
Right.
It just doesn't need to be
almost like he's just
done.
Trying to prove to an employer that he can do X, Y,
Yeah, and the thing is, you basically to get these documentaries to the next level. And the reason I look at it with these glasses is these things could be on I think another level if you got rid of if it was cleaned up. But anyways, moving on. So the final thing I'll just mention is that the ending and everything comes from he went into Paranormal State. This is an A&E produced TV show. And Paranormal State was well done. I mean, it was a big deal. This was a very successful TV show. It still has an insane following, which will be in my other podcast. It blows my mind. It's just disgustingly ridiculous how big the following is. It was a big show. It was on A&E. The production quality was fantastic. I can see all the elements of what Chad picked up from seeing how Paranormal State was shot and edited. And also the story. So to me, American Ghost Hunter wraps itself up exactly how and this was part of the success formula. Basically, the formula of success for Paranormal State, here's a huge problem. Insert Ryan Buell, solve the problem at the end of the episode. You basically put in the happy music, and the problem's gone, and everybody's happy. That's how American Ghost Hunter ends, and it's just but I felt like it's just it just makes a huge leap. There's this problem, and the mom's twisting and squirming on the couch, and then it just cuts to a scene where text comes up Mom's fine now.
Right, and then It's a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Proverbially, it's not actually in the flick.
So, and that's the thing, but that's, I have to give him credit too, because people can say, oh, I can pick up a camera, I can shoot stuff, I can edit stuff, but it's
not like this.
But you can't tell a story. People don't realize how hard it is to tell a story. I'm criticizing how American Ghost Hunter ends, because it's hard. People do not realize what it is to tell a story with video.
Right.
You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and carry someone the whole way through. So, American Ghost Hunter has to end. How do they end it? I mean, if it doesn't end well, you basically just oh, this sucked. I just watched this thing and nothing changed. So you want there to be a hero. You want there to be a redeeming quality at the end. It's why you invest time to watch. And it's if it doesn't do that, it's a failure. So you make it go that direction.
And you know who the hero was in this film?
What? Ryan, Chad, and Lorraine.
I would say Ryan first. And then Chad a close second. But Fred, I have a couple questions for you because you are.
So let's move on. We're done with our criticism. We'll answer your questions and then we'll go into what we thought happened.
So really, I just have the one question because the other ones you've actually answered, but I wrote some of these down.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is you're a video editor, right?
Yes.
So as a video editor and a photographer, which is what you really do, 98% of your time.
Yep.
So how did you feel about the one scene where the guy was trying to prove there was the presence of something, and he took the picture? To me, as someone who's just the son of a photographer, to me those just looked overexposed. I'm sure they were using digital. What are the chances there?
When I actually don't remember that.
Okay, so
when was this?
Oh gosh, maybe early middle of the movie.
Was it when the mom, those old pictures of the mom?
No, this was actually a picture
pictures of what
he was taking of. I believe it was Chad and Ryan. somebody was taking.
Oh, they went to that haunted house. They went to the
Yeah.
axe murderer house.
Correct.
They went to that famous house where guy killed that whole family with an axe,
Which,
like,
if you're
in the
not,
closet.
if you're not interested,
forgot
in
that was
Chad's
part of this.
story. If you're not interested in Chad's story, there's about 30 minutes of a ghost hunt of the axe murderer's house.
They do 2 ghost hunts. This movie's worth watching just for the 2
just
ghost hunts.
the ghost hunts. And,
Okay.
and that which actually brings me to my next question. Since you don't remember
but no,
this,
I
and we're
remember
gonna-
now. So
and
there
we're
was a
gonna edit
picture
that
of
out.
Chad. They were taking pictures, and like. I think it was Chad. Was it Chad took a picture of Ron, or somebody took a picture? But Justin, the camera guy,
Chad was
took
definitely in the picture.
Justin, the camera guy,
Two-thirds of
took
it,
a picture of like Chad and Ryan. And what I don't remember.
But here's what we can do, I guess,
Yeah.
with that, because we're going to be here for 2 more parts. Maybe I can show Fred that particular scene.
We'll bring it up in the next podcast. Sorry.
We'll start it up. And the second question I have for you then is, and we'll make this one real quick here, but the second question I have, and then I'll answer it for you, is if you were going to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely you can't believe this, 10 being everything in this flick is completely believable. Where are you rating this? I think we should do this after each of the 3.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I mean, this is how we'll do it. This takes us to the end. We're getting off the fence. What we think has happened. So you want to start it with how?
Do you believe it?
Is there any context, or are we just putting it in a rating? I've become, unfortunately, because of a lot of this paranormal stuff, I've become, you know me, I'm Mr. Conspiracy.
Yeah, Mr.
I'm Mr. Conspiracy. Yeah. I believe.
We're formal here.
Like the stuff we were even talking about before we started recording this podcast. Like,
no,
I believe in, like, you put something weird out there, I'm the first guy that's going to eat it up. I've become a skeptic on ghosts.
I know.
On that one, I'll buy Bigfoot, I'll buy aliens, I'll buy it all.
I know.
I am like a skeptic on ghosts anymore. I've been so ruined by the Paranormal State team. I go to Gettysburg a lot, and the other thing too is like, Gettysburg's a haunted place. I go there so much. I've never seen anything worth commenting on, really. I've seen some weird pictures. That's about it. I would say, honestly, like somewhere like at best 3.
Wow. Now I can sort of follow your saying, and as the listeners follow these 3, as we talk about all 3 of these parts, they'll sort of see our own journeys on believing. But I got to give this one an 8 or a 9.
Unbelievability that you think she was possessed?
I do.
Wow.
And there's a difference there, too, between just this and ghost stories,
Yeah.
and that I think that demonic possession is a very real thing. So I do think, and to be honest, I thought some of the footage in the ghost hunts were believable. I'll give this one an 8. And you can hear my opinions on the other 2.
Well, let me ask you this, because we're almost running out of time. So we basically just said what we thought, but I want to tell you this. I didn't tell you this yet, but one of the episodes I'm hoping to record over the next few weeks. Do you remember one of our other graveyard buddies, Stan? Did you ever meet Stan?
I did meet Stan.
You do know, because I didn't know if he was gone before we started.
One of the T-Bird films.
Yes. So Stan, he's now a professor down at the University of Virginia, and he teaches a class called Demonology. He teaches a class in demonology. So we're going to do hopefully a podcast together about demonology. If you want to come for that
Absolutely. Well, because I took the class at St. Vincent in demonology. They called it the Defense of the Dark Arts.
So, here's what's interesting. I would believe in demonology before I do ghosts. Even some people are like, well, how can you do that? It's the same thing. I don't think it's the same.
Not at all. In fact, I had mentioned before the show, I think that Chad in these 3 films...
Or I should say a possession. I would think something. But here, without getting that. So, but here's the thing. I think was happening. So you said an 8. So you're more leaning towards that. If something was happening, you think that there was a possession going on.
Let me put it this way. I think that the acts in the show were accurate. And I don't want to say too much more because I think that some of my opinions on the other 2 films are going to tie into this.
Okay.
Whether it's a possession or not, I'm not a priest. I'm not a pope. I can't tell you the answer to that. But I do think that the actions were accurate, and may call it possession, call it psychosis, call it whatever you want. But there's definitely something going on, and I can maybe tie it together when we talk about Blood Red Sky.
Well, this is going to be a perfect segue. We're going to wrap this up with this, and get us ready for the next one. I think, to me, if I had to say what something's going on, so this all starts with Chad's childhood. There was a very negative experience.
Right.
The father was burned. It was traumatic. He almost
and
didn't
the mother
live.
had a shit ton of negative experiences.
Yeah, and then they go to this house, and just like it's not, there's not a lot of just social aspect at this tiny house. And I think there was just a lot of negativity. And I think because if stuff happened as a kid in this house. But I actually think it falls in line. I really, deep down, kind of believe what Chad is trying to prove. I don't think he proves it in Blood Red Sky, what he's trying to prove. But I actually believe in what he believes in. I think that is the element. I think there's just negativity that was creating just. I think the negativity in their life and in the house is creating a almost like a negative reality for them.
I agree, and I think if you're listening to this one and you haven't watched any of Chad's films, then maybe do yourself a favor and at least watch the trailer for Blood Red Sky before you jump into the next one, because that's going to help you understand the end of this one.
Yeah,
but I think that it ties those two together.
And if it truly did, if things really were better after they tried dealing with this as mom, I don't think that she was possessed. I don't really know what I think with that. I think just a lot of weird stuff was going on, but I think them addressing